This time of year the hop trellis is in fine form. It's also the time of the state fair, which is normally when I used to harvest them, but I just don't use them anymore. That's another story. But what we're doing today is using some more malt from a craft maltster. They are vertical malting company. Chip has gotten some of their malt and he's given me some. So that's part of the experiment. The other experiment angle is I got some free hops at Homebrew Con, like I'm sure any of you who went also got. These are what's on the table here for today. Experimental grapefruit, they're a little older. So I'm gonna use them for bittering, and I'll just kind of figure out how much to use based on my expected gravity. I also have these Comet hops. These are, I believe, probably 2-ounce packages. Back to the vertical malt. Here is one of the sacks. I took 13 pounds of this, which is basically a 2-row malt. I don't know if you'd call it a pail or just a 2-row. And then we have a Crystal 40 test. I have a pound of this, so I have 14 pounds total. Let me see if I can get out my notes here. The variety of barley that they process for the base malt is called Pinnacle. And it was first, it's a North Dakota State University breeding program product. It was first kind of bred or crossed in 1999, but I think it was a few years later than that it came kind of into its own. Logan and Foster are in the parentage, so if you're wondering where they went, it's said to have a high yield and low protein. So first thing today I'll kind of notice is if I got a gravity that's around what I normally would expect for the amount of grain, 14 pounds that I would get for a 5-gallon batch. Vertical Malt Company, they specialize on locally grown barley, and they're in Minnesota though, I believe. I believe that's correct. And they customize some malt for craft brewers. They're not big enough to have a lot of retail stuff, I guess, for home brewers, but for what they do, I think if you're a craft brewer, you can talk to them and they might malt it a certain way, according to what you might want. So anyway, we're going to try this malt, we're going to try these hops. Another experiment is part of the, well, not really experiment, but I have this washed wheat beer yeast that I hate to let go to waste because I have a lot of it. And I didn't make a starter because I'm just going to pitch a lot of this washed yeast, more than I normally would put into a starter. And we'll see if that changes anything either way. I don't think it will. I think there's going to be plenty of yeast. But we'll check in later with the gravity, initial look at the wort. So stay tuned. So it's about 1070. I would call that 1070. And this is before pitching yeast. I got almost 5 gallons. And my comment about the yeast is here are these jars. And here's a bottle cap for perspective, but you can see, I can't, come on now. There we go. So you can see how much yeast I have. These are quart jars. And normally I would make a starter with this, which is, you know, a lot of yeast anyway. But what I'm going to do is just decant off all this stuff, get it in here, get the blow-off tube going, and we will get this puppy rocking pretty soon, I bet. So I used 14 pounds of grain. I got 1070. That's pretty good for me. That's about what I would hope to get. However, I did boil a lot of water off. I collected 7.5 gallons at least, maybe a little over, and I had to boil and boil. I have put a pot on my upstairs stove, one of these little 4-gallon pots, and was boiling it away for some time. So I got down to, as you see, almost 5 gallons. So that's like a third of the volume. So, you know, I don't know if that helps with the efficiency or not, but I mean, I got a pretty good gravity out of it. Did the 2 hop additions as I mentioned. I think I mentioned them. Experimental grape, 1 ounce at 60, 1 ounce at 30, and then 2 ounces of the Comet at the end. And it's all chilled. All I gotta do is pitch this yeast and get it in the closet, ferment it, and we'll check in on it in a little bit. So this is 12 hours after pitching the bottom of those 2 quart jars with no starter before I went to bed last night, and it was about 3 or 4 hours after pitching. It had a couple of bubbles in here, but it wasn't anything like this. So this is going well so far. I see the temperature is about 68 to 70. So what I'm gonna do is pull this t-shirt down and get a couple of ice things under there, and that'll help keep it cool enough. Da 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 da.
Coming in hot. Beep, boop, boop. Coming in hot. You know what I'm saying with all these experimental hops?
Hello everybody, we are at Chip's house.
Hey.
Cheers. Happy New Year.
What? Happy New Beer.
There you go. We are tasting the vertical malt beer that I call vertical malt IPA. It's not extremely hoppy, but it is IPA gravity, and I tried to hop it reasonably well. It went from 1070 down to 1011. It's been in the keg now for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and we're gonna give it a try. Part of the reason, one of the main reasons for this beer in this video was to try the vertical malt. Vertical is a craft malting company. They are in the Red River Valley near Fisher, Minnesota. They have a close relationship with the farmers. I don't think that they are family.
No,
you think they are? Okay.
Adam, the maltster, is the son of, and I'm going to totally forget his name, so I won't even try it, but his dad is the farmer. It's been in their family for like generations.
Well, it says Lloyd Wagner and Sons. The counterpoint to vertical malt is Lloyd Wagner and Sons Incorporated, which was formed in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Original Wagner homestead still stands to this day, where Lloyd and Harriet Wagner, both in their 90s, still live and thrive. Lloyd is himself a third-generation farmer, etc., etc. Tim and Joel Wagner operate the farm, but I don't know if...
Tim, I believe, is the dad of Adam, the maltster. And they're the ones that had this idea. Because
beautiful. I did not know that. I thought it was just...
Yeah, they used to grow malt for generations, and then there was a blight, or a plate, I can't remember, a blight that took it out, and then homebrewing actually brought them back into it. They home malted like a bucket's worth, and were like, we should start growing a multiple barley variety,
right?
And it became now this craft malt.
So to that point, they don't have a huge capacity or production. They work with the people that are buying the malt, and they can even sort of cater how it's malted to their requests.
Yeah.
From my understanding, Chip got some, and I think I did a little video earlier in this video. I can't remember what I shot. But basically, I think I used around exactly 13 pounds of their base malt and 1 pound of their Crystal 40. Now, talk about the malt character of this beer. Let's talk about that briefly. The beer has cleared. I did use gelatin. It's nice and clear.
It's 40. It's pretty dark for being
It's kind of
40.
darkish. It's probably a
I would have guessed
dark
60.
red.
Yeah, it's dark red, dark copper. The malt I get is
I think the malt tastes
bready
nice.
and cherry and kind of
Kind of caramely. I mean, it's that crystal sweetness, but I don't know if I was to use 1 pound of whatever other Crystal 40 I would get. I'm not sure if I would get this much sweetness.
I mean, a pound is a lot, even in a 14-pound grist. I don't know what that percentage is offhand, but a little less than 10?
Yeah, definitely less than 10.
But that's still pretty high.
Well, when I make my Steam and Wife lager, I think I use a pound of Crystal something, and that beer is never this sweet.
Okay.
So, as a reference, I believe, I'd have to check, but I believe that I use a pound in that beer. My point is that I feel like their crystal, this iteration of their crystal that they had called it Crystal 40, is pretty sweet, and I definitely would have dialed it back when I am also trying to taste the hops, which are another story to this beer. The hops were the bittering hops. Both of the hops I got from HomebrewCon.
Swag hops.
Swag hops. Hashtag.
Swag. Did you dry hop that?
I bittered it with a 2014, so it's 2017, Grapefruit Experimental, 17% alpha acid, so I don't do the calculations, or I wasn't worried about that, but I did an ounce of that at 60, an ounce of that at 30, but for my money, the story on the hops is the 2 ounces of Comet that I put in at the end, and that hop has...
like Whirlpool, you mean?
Yes, 0 minutes.
During brew day, not dry hop.
Right, not
Okay.
dry hop, so it would have extracted some flavor and also maybe a little bitterness from that. I put them in right at the end. I didn't know how long I let them sit, but probably 10 or 15 minutes.
And the Comet has its own crazy story.
The Comet hops, so you've got the vertical malt, but then the Comet hops, which I've never used, or I don't even know if I probably had never even heard of them till they ended up in my freezer, are quite unique. They remind me of a mosaic of a different New Zealand hops that are give you a multiple different flavors and aromas. Now this beer is not as strong in the flavor and aroma department as it was a couple weeks ago. I've been trying to get together for a couple weeks, but is there anything that you think that you can track down to the hops?
Well, it's weird when you read something and then you're like, oh, yeah, I'm starting to get that. But once I read this lime, grapefruit, lime, and grassy, I was like, oh, yeah, there's a lime layer to this. Kind of
it was a little more, too.
I wouldn't call it tart, but just that lime skin kind of vibe. Grassy, for sure.
Yeah, grapefruit, lime, grassy. The one thing that was getting me was a certain kind of flavor that I couldn't put any verbiage on, and then I was reading this, and they said Wild American, and that's
I don't understand what that means. Does that mean like a wild hop just growing natively, or does it mean American in the way that like Cascade?
It means an American that's just lost his mind. He's going crazy. He's like,
you wild Americans.
It's like
man.
girls. It's like Americans going wild. It's just out of control. No, I guess I was kind of thinking of like funk, wild, spontaneous fermentation. Like this doesn't have anything to do with hops.
No.
It's more of a yeast thing. But I was thinking wild. When you think of like wild flavors, it's a earthy, herbal kind of. It's just a weird flavor that I felt was in the hop, along with the grapefruit, which the grapefruit rind, the lime, the grassiness. So
what I get out of this is I feel like this is almost like American barley wine meets, it's really English IPA. Like the English, because of the lingering sweetness.
Yeah, English IPA. That's
the English. It really reminds me of True Brit. Summit True Brit, but that would be a little more earthy because of like it just uses like straight OG England hops. I assume it's probably Fuggle, Kent Goldings. So this kind of does those two different dances. The Wild American, that big footy kind of barley wine, but diluted with a little bit of that sweetness, earthiness that would be an English IPA.
Yeah.
It tastes really good. It tastes better now, or not better, but I like it more now than I did, say, what was that, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
It's probably 7% alcohol there.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. Well, it's got to be a little more.
1070 to 1011, I don't have that.
Yeah. But as I drink it, I'm like, oh, this is almost like more of a sipper fire beer. Maybe it was like too warm when we started drinking it.
I drank a big imperial pint of it before I came over.
But that's what I get out of it, and it's all of these things combined. It's this. Well, it's funny you keep downplaying. That's 2 ounces of something that's 17% alpha that we don't know what the hell it really is. So that is doing
Grapefruit
something.
Experimental. So when you look that hop up, it does talk about shockingly enough, grapefruit, right? Grapefruit, rhymes.
So it's not just a clever name,
right? But which I think is also a part of the Comet profile, so it may be hard to distinguish those apart. But basically, to wrap this video up with some sort of point, I've done many of these videos and beers where I'm using these smaller craft maltsters, I call them. In this case, the base malt, I kind of wish I would have only used the base malt.
Yeah.
And then the hops would have shown more, and I would have gotten a better idea of the base malt. I think the Crystal 40, the 1 pound, threw off a lot of character, a lot of flavor, but in its own right, that's part of this whole experiment. Okay, 1 pound of this particular Crystal 40 is going to give you a lot of Crystal. I hope you like Crystal. And these hops that I got for free, and I just kind of put them in there, they were fun too. I mean,
it's basically a free PA is what you're saying.
Oh snap.
A free PA.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, all of this was free, right?
So, yeah, if you get a chance to use different malts, different hops, I mean, you guys all know this channel, my brewing style is all about experimenting. It's all about low-risk experimenting. Is this a beer that I have to dump? Absolutely not. Do I like it? Yes. Do I love it? Probably not. But I would like it. The price was right. It's a nice beer, and I'm learning about
it was
this different hop.
1.06 free.
Parody song coming your way in the future.
No, I don't hate it at all. I'd actually like to see what happens to it with another month or two. You know, I know the hops are going to fall way out, but
I think it's just going to get sweeter, you know. I think like now is the time to drink it up.
Believe it.
You know what I mean? Know what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Anyway, rest in peace, Jim Leahy, John Dunsworth, Trailer Park Boys for life, Sunnyvale. Thank you guys for watching. We're gonna drink some of Chip's beer now.
Nice.
So there.
Yeah. Too bad.
All right. Catch you later. Da 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 da.